The background character. You ever feel like you're just a background character in someone else's story? That's exactly how I felt 6 months ago on a Friday night. Haley had dragged me to a rooftop party with our so-called friends. I say friends loosely because half of them were just familiar faces. I couldn't even remember most of their names. It was one of those crowds where everyone knows someone, but nobody really knows anyone. A mix of coworkers, old classmates, and random plus ones who somehow became regulars. Take Sean, for example. He had only been around for about 6 months, but no one really knew where he came from. One day, he just started showing up. He had this way of always being in the middle of things, cracking jokes that weren't funny, but still managing to get laughs. Haley thought he was hilarious. Me, I thought he was an attention-seeking clown. Like always, Haley had her social butterfly act perfected that night. She floated from group to group, laughing loudly, flipping her hair, and flashing that megawatt smile. One she seemed to save for everyone but me. Meanwhile, I stayed in the background, sipping my whiskey, pretending to enjoy myself while she basked in the spotlight. I might have let it slide, chalked it up to Haley just being Haley. But then I noticed her phone. It was sitting on the table buzzing nonstop. She'd glance at it, smirk that sly little smile, then flip it face down. "Who's texting you so much?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. "Work," she replied without even looking at me. "Work? At this hour?" She finally looked up, her face already set in that exasperated expression. The one she reserved just for me. Not everyone clocks out at 5, Dylan. I bit my tongue and let it go, but my gut told me something was off. And then it happened. The moment that would replay in my head over and over. Haley stood up, glass in hand, and tapped her fork against it. The room quieted. All eyes were on her. She loved that. Being the center of attention. "To my husband Dylan," she began, smiling sweetly at me. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, she was about to say something kind for once. "Wrong. Dylan," she continued. "The man who's reliable, dependable, and always consistent like a Honda Civic. Not exactly exciting, but hey, it'll get you where you need to go." Laughter rippled through the room. My face burned, but she wasn't finished. Her smile widened, turning razor sharp. And let's not forget his fascinating ability to turn any conversation into a lecture about tax deductions. Truly, a man of many spreadsheet talents. The laughter grew louder. Haley sat down, looking far too pleased with herself. Sean, of course, was laughing the hardest, slapping the table like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. He leaned over, still chuckling. "Man, she's got you pegged, huh? Gotta love her sense of humor." I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might crack. Leaning toward Haley, I hissed, "What the hell was that?" "It was a joke," she said casually, swirling her wine. "Relax. Publicly humiliating me is your idea of a joke?" "God, Dylan, stop being so sensitive," she snapped, finally looking at me. "It's not that deep." Before I could respond, her phone buzzed again. She picked it up, her thumbs flying across the screen. That same smug smile crept onto her face. I couldn't take it anymore. I pushed back my chair and stood up. "I need some air," I muttered, walking toward the exit. The rooftop air was cool, crisp, and thankfully quiet. I leaned against the railing, staring out at the city lights, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. Was I overreacting? Maybe. But Haley hadn't just been off tonight. She'd been like this for weeks. The constant phone buzzing, the distant attitude, the way she seemed to light up for everyone else but barely looked my way. And now this. A public roast session at my expense? My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Haley. "You okay? Don't take it so seriously. You know I love you, right?" I stared at the screen. The words felt fake, like she was checking a box rather than genuinely caring. For the first time in our marriage, I didn't reply. When I walked back inside, the vibe at the table felt different. Or maybe it was just me. Haley was deep in conversation with Rachel, her best friend and biggest enabler. Rachel kept glancing at me with this smug little smirk, like she knew something I didn't. Sean, of course, was still lounging in his chair, scrolling through his phone, occasionally laughing to himself. But every time he glanced up at Haley, there was a look. Something between amusement and, I don't know, satisfaction. "Dylan, my man, One of the guys waved me over. Lighten up. Grab another drink. I forced a weak smile and headed to the bar, ordering another whiskey, my eyes never leaving Haley. She was laughing loudly, tossing her hair like she didn't have a care in the world. And then I saw it. Rachel slid Haley's phone across the table. Haley picked it up, glanced at the screen for a split second, and bit her lip to hide a smile. Then, just like before, she flipped the phone face down. That was it. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I walked back to the table, leaned in close, and said, "We're leaving. Now." Haley looked up at me, eyebrows arching. "What? Why?" "Because I said so," I replied, my voice sharp. Rachel, ever the instigator, chimed in. "Oh, come on, Dylan, let Haley have some fun. She's been working so hard lately. She deserves a night out." My jaw tightened. "Haley," I said, locking eyes with her. "If you don't get up right now, I'm leaving without you." She rolled her eyes and grabbed her bag, tossing her napkin onto the table, like it was some great inconvenience. "Fine. If it's that important to you." The walk to the car was suffocating. Haley crossed her arms and stared out the window the entire drive home. Her silence felt louder than any argument. I didn't say a word either. My mind was racing, and for the first time, I wondered if I really wanted to know what was going on, or if it was already too late. Before you find out what happens next, please subscribe to the channel. By the time we got home, the silence between Haley and me was like a black hole, sucking all the air out of the car. She didn't slam the door when she got out. That would have required too much energy. Instead, she gave me a dramatic sigh, like she was the one who'd been wronged, and headed straight inside. I followed her in, tossing my keys on the counter, and watching as she kicked off her heels and grabbed a water bottle from the fridge. "You want to tell me what that was all about?" I asked, finally breaking the silence. Haley looked at me like I'd just asked her to solve calculus. What was all about?" The toast, the phone, Sean laughing like an idiot the whole time. "Take your pick." She rolled her eyes and leaned against the counter. "Oh my God, Dylan, it was a joke. You're so dramatic. You called me a Honda Civic," I said, my voice rising. "In front of everyone." Her lips curved into that smug little smile she perfected over the years. "Well, you are reliable." I felt my grip tighten on the counter. "This isn't about the damn toast. You've been acting different. Distant. And don't even get me started on your phone buzzing all night." Haley crossed her arms, her smile disappearing. "I'm sorry if I don't want to spend every minute of my life coddling your ego, Dylan. Maybe you should take a look at yourself for once." That was it. I walked past her and into the bedroom, slamming the door behind me. My heart was racing, and my head felt like it was about to explode. But then I noticed her purse, carelessly tossed onto the bed. Sticking out of it like a golden ticket was her iPhone. I should have stopped myself, really. I should have. But my mind was racing with all the little moments from the past few months. The late nights, the whispers between her and Rachel, the constant excuses to catch up with friends, and now Sean smirking at me like he knew something I didn't. So yeah, I grabbed the phone. The screen lit up with a message notification. My stomach dropped. "Sean, you were on fire tonight. Can't stop thinking about that dread." I didn't hesitate. I unlocked her phone. Haley never bothered with a complicated passcode, and opened the messages. There it was. A thread between her and Sean that stretched back weeks, maybe months. I didn't even have to scroll far to see the kind of stuff that would turn any guy's stomach. "Sean, last night was amazing. I haven't stopped thinking about it." "Haley, me too. Can't wait for the next time." My hands were shaking, but I kept scrolling. Each message hit harder than the last. There was no room for interpretation. No, maybe it's just friendly banter. This was exactly what it looked like. And then it got worse. I scrolled up to the beginning of their thread, back to the first message Sean had ever sent her. "Sean, hey, Rachel said I should reach out. She thinks you could use a distraction." Rachel. Of course she was involved. I set the phone down for a moment, trying to process what I had just read. My head was spinning, and all I could think was,